Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. And I should be saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. We're in the octave of the Christmas feast. For us Catholics, on the big ones, we do it for 8 days. So this is still Christmas Day, just like the 8 days after Easter are still Easter. And it used to be the 8 days after Pentecost. I don't think we still do that one, but there's something else that we do the 8 days on. In any case, it's Christmas, and Merry Christmas. And I dressed for Christmas for the show. I thought that we all agreed we were dressing for Christmas, but maybe I'm the only one who got the memo. We have two very, very fine guests. And we're going to do a little bit of a year in review and have some great conversation about what the state of the world is at the moment. We love to do these shows at the end of the year, and we do a survey. We do a Catholic Answers survey at the end of the year where we ask people questions like what's the positive trend of the year, the negative trend of the year, the Catholic person of the year, the pro-life person of the year. So we reveal the results of that over 2 days. We also ask the Catholic Media Organization of the year, and there is a correct answer to that. And a lot of people did not say the correct answer this year. So we're going to have a problem with that. But let me introduce our two very, very fine guests, not dressed in Christmas garb, but dressed very handsomely. First, I guess I'll go farthest away to closest. So Tim Ryland, who is the editor of Catholic Answers magazine, beautifully redone magazine this year. We'll talk a bit about that. Hi, Tim.
Okay. How are you doing, Si?
I'm very well. Is Tim's microphone on? We good?
Sort of, kind of.
Oh, there we go. Now you're on.
Now I'm in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, we had to. The video guys did a nice job setting us up in a comfy little Christmas setting here.
I
So.
think I'm going to leave. I'm just going to stay here after we finish taping.
I know that we got the modern chairs. We got everything for you, Tim. So, and also with us, the director of publishing here at Catholic Answers, a brilliant year, and particularly in March for books being published here at Catholic Answers, Todd Agliolaro. Merry Christmas.
I want it to be known I'm wearing a sweater vest, Si.
Yeah.
That is
not
very
count?
Christmassy. You're right. I apologize.
Yeah, I'd have to be the
Thank
odd man out here. You two do look a little
Do we look-
Christmassy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. And I kind of have a little bit of the Santa beard and the belly and all of
The
that.
beard. Just stop at the beard.
It's, right. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both for being here with us. We've done this before, and we'll get your comments on some of the results of our Catholic Answers survey, which was, I think, to me, it looks like, Darren, I'll have to ask you this, but it looks like the least conclusive survey we've ever done. Always before, it seemed like each category had a really clear winner, and not so much this year. So maybe that says something about the year. It was a bit of a diffuse year. A lot of different things going on. Well, chaotic maybe is. Would you agree with that, or is that too harsh a word? We're living in chaos, it feels like.
Yeah, we could say that almost the end of every year, can't we? It's.
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
I think it comes at being middle aged too. The world
Yeah,
just
these
goes to heck.
darn kids
Yeah, that's right.
and their chaos. How'd you find the year, Tim?
Chaotic.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, I did notice looking over the survey and the individual answers, there's just such a wide range, especially when it came to the negative stuff, that you could choose almost any one of
Right.
20 topics. It's just.
I'm not going to say who it is. There is one very popular Catholic person. We'll get to who that person is, but there is one handsome fella that everybody likes.
Yeah?
A priest.
Yeah.
Does he have a beard? Is he dressed? Oh, a priest.
Is he resurrected? Oh.
No, well, not.
Okay, I'm just.
But the magazine, you changed it this year. So before we go on, I'd like to talk about the magazine. It's
Okay.
a beautiful magazine. It's been brilliant for years, but you're doing new things with it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Si. I need you to talk to the people that write my paycheck a little bit more often. Yeah, we have gone through a redesign. It had been a decade, and the magazine's been in existence for over 3 decades. So it was time to freshen it up a bit. And also, as you know, the way of all flesh, publications in general, print publications have been going away.
Yeah.
It's just not cost effective anymore, and our subscription base has been dwindling slowly but surely.
Right.
And in an effort to try to reach more people, to do a little bit more apostolic good, we after much thought and prayer, we came up with a new paradigm, which is not subscription based anymore. It's basically, if you're a supporter of our apostolate and you want the magazine, you'll get it.
You get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
It's just that simple. And we went through, I have a copy here. I don't know if you're going to see this, but
Yeah, it's on the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
People can see that. Yeah.
Anyway, this is our first redesigned issue. I'm proud of it. I think it's more accessible than it. We did get a lot of comments about some of the articles were a little bit meaty.
Yeah.
So without dumbing it down, we're trying to make it more accessible. We've in the first 2 issues have addressed some cultural issues and that we haven't before in a long time, and things like, is taking marijuana immoral?
Yeah. So that's not what you would usually think of as a straight apologetics question.
Sure, right.
And maybe tell us what, like, we're an apologetics apostolate at our core.
Of course.
So what does that mean? Like, we're moving into things, a broader kind of publishing than just hitting the apologetics things.
Well, what we're really doing, I think, is responding to what as an apostolate, the kinds of questions we're getting. Because I know that the apologists have told me, and I know on air, you get those types of questions. They may be edging into the pastoral field, but nevertheless, it's like what the church teaches about these particular things.
Yeah.
I would argue it's apologetic. It's not 10 more reasons we can prove the Immaculate Conception apologetics. It's not debating the Bible with Protestants apologetics, but it is a question that's on people's minds, and the answer is connected with Catholic moral teaching, and which is itself connected with a Catholic anthropology that's rooted in natural law. So that's right in our wheelhouse, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a kind of use of philosophical categories and theology to say this is what the church teaches. And the church, I suppose, I mean, with marijuana, to take an example, I guess this is where I'm maybe departed from the proper way of speaking about this, Todd. But the Immaculate Conception is a dogma of the church. So when you defend that apologetically, you have such a clear task. Whereas, can I use marijuana, or what are the proper uses of marijuana? Those questions, they involve the teachings of the church, but there's not a defined dogma.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there's concentric circles.
Yeah.
At the very center of which are Catholic dogmas.
Yeah.
The essential teachings about our faith.
Right.
That are clearly defined and deeply rooted. But I think that those spirate out into other questions regarding Catholic doctrine, practice, prayer, and certainly morality. I mean, look, so the old anti-Catholic fundamentalist crowd hasn't gone away. So there's still a need to provide defenses of the faith in conversations with such people. But really, in our age, the number one foe of the faith is the creeping secularization of the world. Yeah. And that expresses itself more on the moral front than on the theological one.
Right, yeah. And did you feel like when you address a question like the marijuana question, what will come into answering that is a whole understanding of the human person?
Of course.
That maybe the reader of that, like a parent, as a parent, I might put that in the hands of my, adult children for their reflection. What I really want at the core level is for them to get the anthropology, for them to understand what is a human being, who is God, why those two things must be related to one another. Right. Is that your sense?
Well, you must have read the article. It very much.
I honestly can't remember if I read it or
no,
not.
you haven't, because it hasn't come out yet.
Okay, all right.
It's in the next issue, but very much so. The anthropology is really what we come back to, and so the root question is, how do we as Catholics, or how should we as Catholics, view these, what you would call cultural issues, moral, but people don't think of, really, I think of these days of marijuana as being immoral. As it becomes more and more legal, that leg that we stood on for so long is like, well, don't smoke it because it's illegal. It's against the law. So you're sinning by breaking the law. As that goes away, we have to come to a more fundamental, as you say, anthropological questions about why is it wrong to alter our consciousness? Is it, and why is it? Right. Given our sacredness as human beings, as created in God's image.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So I imagine your field of topics then will, proper use of media. You'll probably cover family issues. You just, it's a wide open horizon.
So. We hope so, and we hope that it's much more usable and it's something that people will dig into and keep around and pass along.
Well, but what about when the YouTuber, as Todd was saying, say the Protestant fundamentalist YouTuber attacks Catholics for this or that? We'll still defend the church against these kinds of things, or are we done?
We're done with that.
We're done with that.
Yeah.
All right, we're done.
We won, Si.
Yeah, we won.
It's not a problem.
I don't think the internet knows that we won.
Well,
I don't think it's aware. All right, we got to take our quick break. It's Christmas time, and it's the last couple of days of the year. We always have these fun conversations. I look forward to them and value them, and they really are an opportunity to kind of reflect. And so I hope that you'll stay with us and enjoy that. We'll continue our conversation. We'll talk about some of the things that happened this year. We'll talk about our survey a bit. We'll talk more about some of the internal things going on here at Catholic Answers as a response to all that stuff going on out there in the world. We continue with our Merry Christmas week here on Catholic Answers right up to this.
Hang on. Catholic Answers Live will return in a moment.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
EWTN offers the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass live every morning at 8 Eastern and provides you with daily readings to follow along and enrich your experience. To be sure you don't miss out on the daily Mass or to get access to previous recordings, we can send a link to your email inbox every day. It's easy. Visit EWTN.com and click subscribe. EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Merry Christmas to you and all of yours. Hope you're getting a little bit of rest this week. Not everybody is. I realize that, but I hope that you are or will get some rest. And as we rest, it's a time to have some more relaxed conversations. Not move at quite the pace we usually move on the live program, where take a question, answer the question, take another question. We can get a little bit off of that Amazon warehouse mode of Catholic evangelization and have some conversations with people we really like talking to. And Tim Reinland, the editor of Catholic Answers magazine, and Todd Aglioloro, the director of publishing here at Catholic Answers, are two of those people we love to have those conversations with. So what else about the magazine? Anything else you want to tell us about the magazine? I mean, the main thing is, if you're giving to Catholic Answers, you can have it if you want it. And so
That's
you can
right.
find out you can read all these great new articles that are going to be in there.
That's right, and I would encourage everyone to do that. We're we're already going out to 30,000 people, so you'll have a lot of company if you start reading the magazine. And I have heard from people that I don't normally hear from that are real pleased with the change. So
let me add something to what Tim said about who's going to get it. He mentioned supporters, so all of our supporters and friends, a large number of seminarians will continue to receive it. And literally anybody who asks for it. So you don't have to be a supporter in the sense of writing us a check. You want the magazine, call us, and we will send it to you. That's the plan. Yeah,
I actually did
right?
not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good news.
Yeah.
Because I know one of the great things, and I've actually heard, I probably should have shared this with you more, but we hear from priests who say, I got it when I was in the seminary, and it's made a huge difference. And but you've always done that, sent it free to priests or men in formation.
yes.
Both the seminarians who have received it for, many, many years, and now this new venture of sending it to anyone who wants it are possible because of the extreme generosity of supporters that we do have. So I would like to thank them as well.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
And also encourage you to become a supporter. If you get the magazine and you like it,
Yes.
there's a QR code in it. You can scan and give us $1, give us $5, give us $10, whatever you can afford.
We have an upward limit at Catholic Answers Focus of $5 million. Do you have an upper limit?
My Secret Santa did the same thing this year. It was
Really?
crazy. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It was really
Oh, that's
embarrassing.
very helpful. But yeah, I think up to $5 million. I really don't think more than $5 million. But I think
that
that's
would be great.
gauche. Then
Yeah.
you're just.
Well, I believe we have a matching grant.
Do we really?
For the $5 million? Yeah. No, of course we don't.
Oh my goodness! I was like, wait a second, what? All right, I wanted to jump on that. Publishing in general continued this year, and what's new in the publishing world? I mean, I know we're doing a lot more. We're doing more audiobooks, which is everybody in the publishing world has to do that. But you're keeping up with, like, it seems like every few months there's like this is a great book coming out of Catholic Answers Press.
Well, thank you, Cy. And certainly back in March there was a great book
That was
published by
a
Catholic
triumph. I
Answers
think
Press.
the word you're looking for is triumph.
Triumph, magnum opus of Cyril Kellett.
Yeah.
Well, we're a diverse apostolate that's multimedia, and publishing is part of that. I think we go for quality over quantity. We're we have kind of a niche in the Catholic marketing world, apologetics and evangelization. But to be sure, your book, A Teacher of Strange Things, is just one of the coolest popular Christologies I've ever read.
Nice.
It was an honor and a pleasure to edit it, and a breeze, let me add.
Look at how nice he is to me.
Well, I want to get invited back next year, so.
This is really nice.
Well, it was an honor and a pleasure to run a couple of excerpts in the magazine this year as well.
Yeah, and thank you. And people said, I really enjoyed your article in the magazine, which is what people say. They don't just say, I read it. People always tell you that.
Right.
But I was like, really? You enjoyed my article in the magazine?
Well, and I'll tell you why. That's not idle praise, Si. You had a way of and it's really hard to do because the Christian mystery is the most familiar story in history.
That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
And even those who are not part of, who are not worshiping in a Christian denomination or practicing or even believe, can't escape having that cultural accretion kind of built up in their heads. No. You somehow found a way, almost Chestertonian way, of doing like a memory wipe on the reader and presenting the gospel fresh.
Oh, that's so very kind of you to say it, and I'm so grateful for the apostolate for publishing it and inviting me to do it and all that. But it does seem to me that we've done the conference now on Jesus. The next year will be on Jesus again. In the Eucharist, it's just another way of doing a Jesus conference. The more we do this apologetics and evangelization stuff, the more it's like, okay, how are we going to present Jesus? It's the key. I mean, I think I'm on solid theological ground. You are probably much more advanced than I am as theologians, but to say, present Jesus and get that right, and a lot of other stuff falls into place.
Well, I'm personally disappointed because we're Catholics, right? We're supposed to be doing more about Mary and worshiping statues and that sort of thing.
My next book is on
rich.
worshiping statues, yes.
Why do we keep going back to Jesus all the time?
I know. Okay, so, but Gary Machuda's book blew me away this year. Steve Weidenkopf's book blew me away this year. Now you're ending the year with the early church was the Catholic Church. Is this one after another?
Yeah, those were all three strong titles. Gary is a fantastic writer and also a radio personality, kind of like your opposite number.
We invite each other onto each other's shows.
That's nice. That's very courteous.
And the name of his book?
The name of his book is Revolt Against
Reality.
Revolt Against Reason is the homage. His book was an homage to Arnold Lund's book, Revolt Against Reason. My apologies.
Yeah, but a very fine book, Revolt Against Reality. I mean, really it's one of those books where I love a book where you're like, oh, you're making a connection. You kind of had some like almost emotional need for this connection to get made, and you're like, oh, he made it. This is why this is how this. I love that.
Does a great job connecting dots through history, showing patterns of individual sin and patterns of corporate ill in the world that all have common denominators that ultimately go back to the Garden of Eden and ultimately even before that probably to Lucifer's decision not to serve, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Steve Weidenkopf's. I mean, we're so familiar with these books. Let's be sure and give the titles to people.
Oh, yeah.
Steve's is Light.
Steve's
from
book is called
Darkness.
Light from Darkness.
Yeah.
And that's probably my favorite after your Sigh of 2021.
Yeah. After mine. Oh, thank you.
Steve is...
That's very nice.
Am I coming back next year? Can I stop doing that now?
You're in. You just keep that. I like the trend. Yeah.
I can't give this book enough praise because it's so right for our times. It's been a trying few years in the world and in the church.
Right.
And it feels like we've been just battered from all directions. And we're tempted to say, and sometimes you see this kind of sentiment come across on social media, oh, the church has been through worse, Holy Spirit's in charge. All true. But it's got kind of an unsatisfying Pollyanna-ish superficiality to it.
Right.
What Steve does is go in depth on this point, and he looks at 9 historical crises, really bad ones,
Yeah.
that the church endured, and showed not only that God was in charge the whole time, but 2 things that were important. One, that when the church came out of those crises, it came out stronger than it was when it went in. Important reforms, important developments in church governance, in spiritual movements and other things arose because where sin abounded, grace abounded all the more.
Right.
And secondly, he shows that we can do something about it, even as laity. We can start with reforming our own hearts.
Yes.
And that's where all authentic church reform begins, not in some hall in Rome, but in our own daily conversion. But having done that, we have a basis for calling on our leaders to bring the church out of its dark times toward God's light.
Yeah, I felt that reading it. I mean, everything from Arianism and investiture controversy, the Reformation. It's not just coincidental to the life of the church that she goes through these crises. That's what I came away from the book. This is part of the life of the church, that she dies and rises in a certain sense, that she. And so I left it thinking, I don't really know what, 2 or 3, 500 years from now, the current crisis will resolve and make better in the world and in the church, but it's going to be magnificent, whatever it is, because you can't look at the investiture controversy and what came out of that. And it seems so meaningless and pointless and petty when they're going through it, and they can't stop it, and it goes on for decade after decade.
Right.
But when it's over, the church is a shining new thing, and the world has new possibilities that it didn't have before.
And the investiture crises that the church has gone through are not quite the same thing, but they do echo in our own time in places like China.
Yeah.
Where the state has woven itself into the official church and is essentially dictating bishops to the church, and we're handling that in a crafty political fashion, but that's got to break. There will be that will break, and there will be a flashpoint for that crisis, and
Right.
I firmly believe that we'll come out of it renewed again.
Yeah, and this whole, everybody knows we're in a time of crisis now. I mean, there's nobody who doesn't know it. We act like we're all divided as Catholics, and there is great division. But one thing unifies us all. We know this is not good, the situation that we're in. But that the Lord is doing, I felt that with reading Steve's piece. I just thought the normal person would write, well, we've come through these controversies before, but that's not what Steve wrote. Steve wrote, treat these crucibles as work of the Holy Spirit. The sin is not the work of the Holy Spirit, but the work of the Holy Spirit is that's the clay that he's working in, and something wonderful is coming. Not just all the bad.
Right. And as a side benefit of that, Steve talks about what he calls the tyranny of the moment, and we've excerpted that in the upcoming magazine. The fact that we get so involved and so concerned about our world that we think it's never been worse.
Yeah.
And how are we going to recover? But when you get a historical perspective on things and see the cycles the church has been through and the crises the church has been through, and it's come out stronger, hopefully it gives us a little hope for the present moment.
It does. When I was thinking about reading about the Arian crisis, I'm starting to feel anxious as I'm reading about, how are we ever going to get through this? It's 1,500 years ago or more, but you feel like this is really bad. How are we going to get through this?
Yeah, Chesterton said Arianism was the biggest thing in the world,
Yeah.
and then Christianity was bigger.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm mixing up my quotes. 50 lashes for me. It was paganism was the biggest thing in the world. He has some things to say about Arianism too, but what I was getting at was the scope of the Arian crisis. It makes the clown mass at your local parish just dwarfs it.
Right. Yeah. So we will. And the Holy Spirit is doing something. It reminds me of the in season and out of season of St. Paul, Well, we're out of season. That doesn't mean,
Right.
but that doesn't mean it doesn't come back into season. And I hope you have a great relationship with Steve Weidenkopf, because he is not one of ours. He is not under our roof and not under, but man, is he producing great work.
And for the Catholic Answers School of Apologetics, he's teaching courses on church history that you also can get at our shop.
Well, don't let Tim Ryland make him mad or something. You know how Tim is.
I have to
too
run
late.
interference sometimes, yeah.
Like, don't let him ruin a good thing we've got going. This guy doing great world history. All right, well, let's when we come back, we'll look at the survey a little bit. We'll look at some of what's gone on this year. I don't know if you know this, but we've got a synod on synodality. We've got a COVID crisis. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff, and you guys have 90 minutes to resolve it. So we'll come back with Tim Ryland, the head of the Catholic Answers magazine, and Todd Agliolaro, the head of publishing here at Catholic Answers, and me, the writer of a book. Hi, that doesn't sound quite as impressive, does it? All right, right back after this. Most of us Catholic parents agree our number one goal in life is to pass on the faith to our children. But here's the bad news. Today's world has a million ways to steal your kid's soul. Don't be afraid, says Father Sebastian Walsh. God loves your children even more than you do, and He desires their salvation more than anything. In his groundbreaking new book, Always a Catholic, Father Walsh shows you how to cooperate with God to bring about the fulfillment of His will for your kids. Always a Catholic reminds us that keeping our kids in the faith is about the way we live our Catholicism in our own lives and as a family from day to day. Order your copy of Always a Catholic by visiting shop.catholic.com today, or ask for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. It's free, and you'll have instant access to our daily broadcast, the schedule of upcoming shows, and you'll even be able to search the archive and listen to thousands of past shows. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
Have you enrolled in the Catholic Answers School of Apologetics? Let me ask you a more important question. Do you believe as a Catholic that you have an obligation to share the Catholic faith? In fact, the Church has answered this question, and the answer is that all confirmed Catholics are obliged to share the faith. It's actually in canon law. Catholic Answers is here to help you fulfill that obligation. Our School of Apologetics courses will equip you to help all the people you come in contact with understand what the Church teaches and why. A great place to start is with all the Catholics in your life. Learn the art of apologetics from the best of the best and start sharing the gospel today. Visit schoolofapologetics.com. That's schoolofapologetics.com.
This is Debbie Georgiani.
And I'm Jerry Usher.
Join us for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie tomorrow at noon Eastern.
Now back to Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back, Catholic Answers Live. Oh, I just saw myself on the monitor. I really do look Christmassy. I'd look exactly like Santa Claus if he was wearing a green
I
jacket.
want to climb into your lap, Si, and
I
tell you
know.
that I want a pony.
It's too late. You have to wait another year. Unless you're one of those people who gives gifts on the Feast of the Epiphany, in which case there's still a chance for a pony.
It's still Christmas.
There's got to be a pony in here somewhere. You guys know that joke? No?
No.
Oh, you can't say it on the air. I said the punchline. I'll tell you at the break. There's got to be. And if anybody wants to know this joke, just type in "there's got to be a pony in here somewhere," and you'll get the joke on the internets. I think we praised Steve Weidenkopf to the heavens there, but I think he deserved it. I think he's just doing great work. I'm so glad that we have an association with him. I think there's a certain kind of scholarliness that is not broken by the scholarly community, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, but we really are in trouble in the universities. And Steve teaches at a very, very fine university, but he's I don't know.
He's understandable.
He's understandable, and he hasn't succumbed, I suppose, to academies.
Well, especially in history, the liberal arts in history are particularly polluted with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about all the books that we want to talk about. I mean, you really did do a great job this year. Well, the Early Church is the Catholic Church is the other one. That's the new one from Joe Heschmeyer, who is under our auspices. And
yes.
That was a get, wasn't it? That was a big... On Feast of St. Joseph this year, he became a member of the Catholic Answers family.
Yeah, Joe's book in a nutshell, what makes that unique to me and uniquely useful is we've done a lot with the Fathers and other like-minded organizations. The Fathers are a go-to resource for showing a historical continuity in Catholic doctrine and practice. But of course, a common Protestant rejoinder as well, after, and then pick your time, early 3rd century, late 2nd, whatever, the falling away occurred.
Yeah.
And a lot of them pick, Constantine,
yeah.
but there's others. And so Joe goes back to the first 2 centuries. He goes back to an early Christian period to which most anti-Catholic naysayers would point as, the pure Christianity.
Right.
Maybe not reading their Bibles, but they're there's the pastoring and there's small groups, and they imagined it as this kind of proto,
Protestantism,
local Bible church.
Yeah, right.
And he says, okay, well, let's go there.
Yeah, let's go look and see what those people were
and
actually doing.
He looks at categories that relate to doctrine, worship, practice. He takes slices from all the main areas that make up a church, and shows that unequivocally, even at those earliest dates, not only was the church, the early church, Catholic in all of its beliefs and practices, but there was never any consideration that it would be otherwise.
No,
there were.
Right.
He refers to dogs that don't bark.
Yeah,
and the absence in the record of any forerunner, of any proto-reformer piping up and saying, no, we don't believe that Mary was the mother of God, or something like that. They're just not there.
Or accusing the apostles of perverting the teaching of Christ or anything. It just doesn't happen. The early church. The two things that I like to say, and I think I've kind of gotten this from conversations with Joe now about it, is, okay, so personally, I want to live the way the earliest church lived, the church that knew Jesus. Well, Jesus founded a hierarchical and sacramental church, so you're going to need to find a hierarchical and sacramental church. And people don't like to hear it. He couldn't have. I think he was spiritual and not religious, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure that. No, he definitely chose the hierarchy. It's in the scripture. You can't miss it. And he definitely created sacraments.
Spiritual but not religious was a category that first century Jews would have been unfamiliar with, for sure. that idea did not exist
right
under the law.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it seems like, I think that's exactly right.
And it's funny, if you don't mind my looking ahead to a future book as we kind of close the envelope on the publishing topic, but we're currently getting ready to publish or send to production a new book by Rod Bennett, who is another great author, storyteller.
The Apostasy That Wasn't.
The Apostasy That Wasn't was the book he wrote for us. His book, 4 Witnesses, for Ignatius Press, and 4 More Witnesses. It's a recently published sequel. And Rod has a gift for, as you do, Si, for putting gospel stories into a really relatable and understandable narrative form.
Yeah.
And this book is going to be called These 12, and it's about the apostles, and it's the Gospels through their eyes. But one thing that he establishes early on is that in certain Protestant circles, particularly the more intellectually honest academic ones, there is actually talk of admitting, well, we have to basically admit the possibility that the apostles got it wrong immediately. That even the apostles
got it wrong.
How else would you? That the possibility exists. You had Christ, and then as soon as he handed off to the human agents, all bets were off. And that's kind of the logical terminus, in a sense, of the Protestant mentality, where you don't have divine protection over the faith, where you don't have a plan, as Rod outlines it, and in his phrase, to work his mission through the men. The mission was the men, in essence. It's an apostolic faith. And that just doesn't mean, well, yeah, Jesus had some followers. It means the apostles were it.
Yes.
They were the front line.
That's why he worked so hard with
them. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that Rod unpacks Christ's approach in working with his apostles, in different apostles in different ways, teaching them this but withholding this, affirming and then chastising, all the patterns that he used were those of a master teacher, as you know well.
Yeah.
So even though it's a narrative book about the gospel through the apostles' eyes, it really is an apologetic work as well, because it reminds us what apostolicity means, and it's not just a word.
Wonderful. And man, Rod Bennett's the guy to do it. When does that comes out in 2022 sometime? Or?
That'll be out in late winter, February 2022.
All right. Well, I think we maybe should look at some of the we'll do this over 2 days. We do this survey of our listeners and ask them everything from, as I said, who the Catholic person of the year is and the pro-life person of the year is, to the positive trends and the negative trends, Catholic word of the year, and some of it we'll kind of present tomorrow. Some of it we'll present today. So this makes our last 2 days of programming kind of fun to find out. I asked you to consider 4 categories. So just first impressions. Let me ask you this. Did you get a sense when you saw the responses to questions about the Catholic person of the year, questions about the negative trend, the positive trend, and questions about, because I gave you the answers to these, Catholic Media Organization. What's the mood? Like after you looked at the responses, your general sum up of the Catholic mood?
Surly?
Okay, tell me about that. What
Good word.
Well, we're so many of us, according to the survey anyway, are quite concerned about the things of the world and of the church. I mean, from COVID to Eucharistic disbelief.
Yeah.
Those are threads that seem to pop up throughout. And yet, when you go to the personality of the year, I saw a lot of positivity. I mean, people responding
to very positive people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting dichotomy.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. What did you think? Would you agree that the mood seems surly among us Catholics?
Well, like I said, that's a great word, and for sure, that sentiment is present in not just in the topics and but in the way they were worded. But it's a weird mix, Si. It's surliness with a kind of defiant hope as well, which I think is kind of a very Catholic thing, isn't it? We're kind of up against the world always, but without losing sight of the light at the end of the tunnel. So I got both of that. There was an underlying optimism and a kind of grim. Grasping on through the tornado kind of feeling.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. All right. Well, let's. We want to do positive and negative trends. We'll talk about those too. Yeah. And we'll get your take on those. Which ones struck you? Which ones didn't? And then we'll see which was the actual positive trend and negative trend of the year as selected by our listeners.
Wow. I can't wait.
See, there you go. That's what I was looking for. A little bit of this is like we're going to drop the ball at Times Square. We're going to do the positive trend and negative trend of the year.
Awesome.
Thank you. We have the guy from Deloitte & Touche coming out with the box, right?
And we forgot that guy. Oh. Okay, but now I have to take a break. Now that we've ginned up all of this enthusiasm. And then
I don't see how we could possibly pay that off sufficiently. So we'll do our best.
All right, right back with more on Catholic Answers Live.
Hang on. We'll be right back with more Catholic Answers Live.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Do you love sharing the gospel and want to learn to be more effective? Join the St. Paul Street Evangelization online School of Evangelization. You will learn to build bridges of trust and make disciples by befriending strangers, proclaiming the gospel, inviting people to the church, and praying with others. We'll ask for a pledge of financial support, but if you are unable to give, we'll give you a membership at no cost. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards is our show for young adults.
Everybody's talking about encounter. Everybody's talking about that mountaintop experience. What we fail to often talk about is what happens after, what happens beyond that Damascus moment.
Jesus Christ is calling all of us to be missionary disciples, disciples of Jesus who are on mission to bring the kingdom of God here and now on this earth.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards, Saturday at 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Welcome back, Catholic Answers Live. We have surveyed our listeners for a whole bunch of end-of-year topics, asked for response on 11 different questions. We're going to cover 4 of them in different ways today with our guests, Tim Ryland, the publisher the editor of Catholic Answers magazine, and Todd Agliolaro, the director of publishing here at Catholic Answers. And we'll start with negative trends. I think we'll start negative so that we can move positive. That sounds
Good
like
idea.
Yeah. So let me just start with, was there one that stood out to you that people said, we leave it completely open. We don't give a variety of answers. We just say, what was the negative trend of 2021? What stood out to you?
The COVID pandemic stood out to me.
Because so many people said it, or?
Several people said it, and also there's just different manifestations, whether it's frustration with having to put a mask on in a grocery store, or whether it's frustration with the inability to worship in a church building. Yeah. I think it affected us all. And
one person, their COVID comment was continued discovery of new COVID variants.
Yeah.
And I didn't think, it seemed to me that they're not opposing the scientific discovery of new variants, just the idea that every time there's a new variant, it seemed to me, I mean, I'm interpreting there, but
no, I took it the same way.
What they're saying is, come on, we're never going to just, buck up. We're going to say another emergency every time. And I think that breathless sense of emergency, people are tired of it.
Well, I read an article just yesterday from a woman, a female doctor in South Africa, who claims she was the first one to raise the flag about this new variant. And she said that she's been, on the front lines for 33 years. She went through all her bona fides, and she said, I was stunned by the global overreaction, people shutting back down. She says, this is the mildest variant that we've identified yet.
Right.
I've never talked to anybody. It was like a bad cold for 4 or 5 days. But she said, there's the overreaction. She says, as a doctor, I'm mortified by it. I'm stunned by it. And I think that's what's happening. We're just making every single day or change in what we know about this pandemic something to shut down the world for.
Tim said that it manifests itself in a number of ways, and it's true even in these comments, and there were some that specifically called out the church's reaction.
Yes, without question.
To the mandates and to the lockdowns. And here in the United States, we've had it relatively good. I mean, there are some dioceses that have been more stringent than others, but in other countries, there are dioceses where they're checking your vaccine card at the door of the church. They're in essence denying the sacraments to people.
Vaccine card and ID in parts of Canada.
In Canada,
like you got to show up with picture ID, which I was told you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Now there's not that's not to downplay a hypothetical circumstance in which a public health emergency is so dire that the church would need to act responsibly.
Right, and that's why we struggle on air, and I wonder what you think about this to answer. Like, people say, well, you can never do this. And the answer is, no, there are situations where complete lockdowns and closing churches and all actually are appropriate. If the Black Death comes back again, believe me, you're going to want them to close everything down because it's the Black Death. But the problem is this is not the Black Death. And I feel like we're using the howitzer in a situation, in a knife fight.
Yes, and that's a prudential point. And of course, you're debating relative levels of tolerance for risk and all that sort of thing for which there's no objective answer. But we can be reasonable with each other, and particularly with regard to this Omicron variant, which is looking more and more to be a tempest in a teapot sort of thing, and where we don't have to take a kind of calloused individual approach. Well, this is the Wild West. If you die, you die. It's not that grave.
Yeah, there is a media of some kind of, what is it, the golden mean, I suppose. So there's some middle way here that, because 800,000 people dying in the United States over the course of 18 months, and I know many people say, well, a lot of them didn't die of COVID. I'm sure that will all be litigated in time, but let's say half of those were fake. It's still 400,000 people. This is a very serious virus. I am not. And I know this, but it's hard to even talk about it because people get so mad at you because you say the thing that they are convinced is not true. But I do think it's a very serious virus. You know, if this were a flu, we'd go, this is the worst flu since 1917. I mean, it's bad. It's worse than the Hong Kong flu, which was called the Hong Kong flu, by the way. I mean, no one thought that was racist in 1968 or 69. But
well, they held Woodstock during the middle of the Hong Kong flu,
yeah, right.
by the way, and that didn't look very sanitary to me. So
no, but
seemed to have survived.
And I don't think they all died. But no, your point's well taken, Si, and of course that's just viewing it from a prudential public health point. When you view it from the perspective, which we really ought to, at least as regards the churches, which is the spiritual good of the sacraments, the necessity of the Eucharist, the necessity of confession. That lifeblood to our souls, which is more important than the body, and in places where there seems to be an imprudent, excessive caution regarding the health of the body over the health of the soul, that's where I think the disappointment of some of our respondents is located.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. Point. I think that's very, very well said, and. I suppose we're going to get through this, but it's at some point, and God forbid that a variant should arise that is, really its magnitude worse, because we've already really beaten each other up horribly over this, and we're so scarred. I don't think we would respond reasonably, but I'll throw this out there and see what you all think. But I do have even a priest that I went to Mass one time was preaching on believing the science, and believing the science tends to go one direction and not the other. Because in my view, okay, I wanted to say, Father, I believe the science. I do think this is a very serious virus, but it's not a threat to children. Like the science is, this is a disease that does not kill children. I'm not saying it will never kill a child, but out of the 2 billion children on the planet Earth, it probably only has the potential to kill a fraction of 1% of them. So it's safer than putting your kid in a car. And that's science. I'm not lying about the virus. Sure. I'm not minimizing. That's the science. So when I see little children in their little masks, clearly suffering, and everyone can deny that that's suffering, but 4-year-olds are suffering if you're making them wear masks for several months. I think we'll
and
believe
making them watch other people in masks.
Yeah.
And I think it will be decades maybe before we realize the full effects of that kind of socialization in schools.
But I don't know what if you would comment for me on like as a Catholic, I believe I believe Father Jockey's premise that science was born of Christianity. I believe in believing science. But why do I have to believe the science that this is a very serious vaccine that puts people in the hospital, that very dangerous, virus, excuse me, but that it's not dangerous for children, and stop treating children like it is? It's not dangerous for them. Why can't I believe all of the science? Why I got to believe half the science?
Yeah, well said.
Well, you gave a statistic of childhood mortality rates of well under 1%. That goes globally for this pandemic side.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
There's less than a percentage of the population of the world has succumbed to this, according to official records. So, never downplaying the severity of it or the tragedy of deaths. When you look at the big picture, it's like, was this worth ruining the global economy for?
Global economy, people's mental health, people's physical
people's
health,
spiritual health.
I think it was worth it because the guys who own Amazon and SpaceX got way richer. They got way.
And there again.
And I feel like, well, that's a good. We should admit some of the goods that came out of this.
Of course.
Having more money, better than having less money.
My pharma stocks are doing great.
Your pharma stocks, I imagine so. We're going to get through it. I think it's related, however, to another thing that I saw as a negative trend. But I think these things are related. People would say a growing distrust of one another, growing distrust.
Catholics versus Catholics. You stole my segue.
Okay, go ahead, please.
No, that's great. I'm glad we were two minds with but a single thought. You and I.
Spy versus spy.
Yeah. But elaborate, will you? What did you think of that point?
That was an expression that one of your respondents used. Then what was the negative for 2021? Catholics versus Catholics.
Yeah.
The social media flame wars over COVID is just one example, I followed a thread that I made kind of an innocent comment on, where a Catholic cleric accused those who are speaking in the way that we are speaking now of causing innocent people's deaths. So if we use
that's
a phrase
horrible
like
accusation.
I agree.
That's mean and horrible.
And it's an example of the way at which those who should be friends and allies, certainly those in the same faith, but all people of goodwill, all people of any faith, we ought to be finding common cause against larger enemies, the culture of death, secularization, all of those things. And instead, we're tearing each other to pieces, not just over COVID, over liturgy wars, over your particular kind of spirituality versus mine.
Over Pope Francis?
Certainly, Francis is a flashpoint for that too.
Yeah. So do you have a remedy for that? I mean, or is it just we have to note that's part of our Catholic life now is really
remedy number one is getting off of Twitter.
Yeah.
Honest to goodness, unless you're using it professionally. And of course, our social media folks here probably won't want me here to say that because we have a Twitter page. So the medium is not evil in itself. Television's not evil. Movies not evil. Twitter is not evil. But we've all gone into that jungle, and we see how people behind that what do they call that? The glass. The
partition, maybe, or
there's an expression that someone coined very cleverly once to express the kind of bravado that we all get when we're sitting in front of our computer screens, and we say things to people we'd never say to them in person.
And we know we shouldn't say. You shouldn't talk to somebody that way.
No one knows you're a dog on the internet. Have you ever seen that famous New Yorker cartoon?
Yes. It's a great New Yorker cartoon.
Right.
Yeah. And obviously you're a bad Catholic because you just referenced the New Yorker. This is one of those cultural markers that you can't. We judge each other so quickly.
It was the old New Yorker, though.
It was the good. I was into the New Yorker
before. Early
stuff,
right?
before they
really
sold out.
That commercial.
I don't know how much I do want to talk about negative trends a little more because there are some that are also really important to talk about. Most particularly, it seems like I don't know how to bundle all these up, but they do seem all connected to me. Several people mentioned wokeism. They mentioned transgender ideology. And used a few other terms that I don't know what the catch-all term for that is. Maybe political correctness would have been what we would have said at one point, but
you're dating yourself, Si.
That's not in vogue anymore. And I will quote In Vogue. That's a great band.
Further dating yourself, Si.
Now I started thinking about In Vogue, and now I forgot where I was going. So. Okay, so yeah, I don't want to, I guess wokeism has become the catch-all term in a certain way.
Yes.
But I see a problem with that. I think when most people use the wokeism stuff, they're talking about the transgender stuff, the language police and all of that. They're not actually talking about the racial issues that were the beginning of the word woke. I don't think that people are... As a matter of fact, I think most people would like to not be talking about race when they're talking about that. They're talking about a kind of mind
I'm not sure
control.
about its origins.
No.
Were they entirely racial? I mean, I think woke, the word, of course, has a kind of Gnostic sense to it. It's kind of which pillar you're going to swallow, right? So you're emerging from your slumber in which you believe what your parents taught you or accept tradition.
It's the exact same thing the other side says red pilled on, or is it blue pill? I don't know which pill.
It's one of those pills.
But
red.
It's supposed to be like, okay, I see the light now, and there is this kind of.
And it's very narcissistic, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, but there also is a point. Well, we got to take a break. All right, we'll continue with, and we'll name the negative trend of the year. we'll reveal it, and then we'll do some more of what our listeners thought of the year 2021, and we'll get the response of our very fine guests, Tim Ryland, the editor of Catholic Answers Magazine, Todd Agliolaro, the director of publishing, and me, your faithful host. And I'm nothing if not faithful. Ask my dog. Cy Kellett. Right after this, we'll be back for more Catholic Answers Live. Merry Christmas and welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Sharing the studio today with Todd Agliolaro, the director of publishing here at Catholic Answers, and with Tim Ryland, the editor of Catholic Answers Magazine, which you can get. Every supporter of Catholic Answers is now getting it. It's not a subscription-based publication anymore. You can even get it for the price of a phone call. Just pick up the phone and ask Tim, please give me the magazine. And on the 11th please, you get a subscription to the magazine. It costs you 11 pleases. Thanks for staying for a second hour, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I took off my Christmas scarf. I was really getting hot. It was really getting hot in here, but still have my...
I just don't feel festive anymore now when I look
at Did I destroy the festive mood? All right, well... we'll bring the
there we go.
We'll bring the Christmas tree right up front here. There we go. Is that ruining the camera shot? Oh yeah, that's completely. I can't put that there. All right. Well, I think behind the crucifix is all right. All right. Now do you feel festive?
I do. I made a big improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we call the Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
I like it.
We were talking a bit about. Okay. So, well, let me just explain. The reset here for the listener. We're working our way through some of the topics that we asked our listeners about. Each year, we do an end-of-year survey of Catholic Answers Live listeners, and we ask them a whole variety of questions, from who's the pro-life person of the year and who's the Catholic person of the year, all the way to what we're discussing now. What are the positive trends and negative trends and everything in between? And folks are generous enough to give us their answers. When the answers come in paragraph form in all caps, then you frighten everyone in the building. But mostly we just get a fascinating glimpse at what people are thinking about, and we're really grateful for it. So we were talking about the negative trends. We talked about the COVID, and then we started talking about what political correctness. How would you lump it all together, or am I lumping together things that shouldn't be lumped together? When I talk about excuse me, I beg your pardon. They're tired of the language police on the transgender. They're tired of the wokeism. They're tired. So,
I think there's common denominators there, Cy.
Yeah.
To use a Chesterton quote that I will get right, he famously remarked that the only sin is to call green grass gray. That's a well-known quip of his, and that seems to be a common denominator. And it really gets back to the Gary Michuta book we discussed in the first hour, A Revolt Against Reality, where God presents us with a reality that we wish to twist to our own ends.
Yes.
Of course, transgenderism is a particularly stark example of that. But in the rewriting of history, in the rewriting of language, in the forced... in enforcing codes of speech and conduct in our workplaces, in our schools, that are inhuman, unnatural, all kind of spirate from that same principle, I think.
Spirate.
Like that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Studied Aquinas, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Chesterton's point that the only sin is to call green grass gray is that sin is an act of irrationality. And we are deeply irrational at the moment. We are out of control, irrational.
Mm-hmm. But I do think that the intellectual dishonesty, which I think is a hallmark of what we tend to call wokeism, eventually comes out, right? And when the snake begins to eat its own tail, because you have people, at least on the political level, say the transgender community and the feminists, you think they'd be in the same boat, generally, culturally, politically, et cetera.
Right.
Right? And I think they have been. But when you get to the point where you have biological males beating the heck out of biological females in sports.
Stop
All of a
this.
sudden, feminism finds itself at loggerheads with the transgender.
Yeah, that's happening right now at the University of Pennsylvania. There's a swimmer there who's destroying all the women's records.
Right, after swimming as a man
until
this year.
And being a good male swimmer.
Right.
And you have all of these teammates of his who probably would sign on to that agenda in general. And now all of a sudden it affects them and they're crying injustice. And of course they're right.
It is injustice.
It is.
Yeah, right.
It clearly is.
Right. I'm glad you said they're right. But the, a hero of the right wing now is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books.
Well, maybe a reluctant hero.
Well, I don't think she's reluctant in the sense that I think she's convicted in what she has to say, but she is not a right-wing person. But they're acting as if this very left-wing woman is a right-winger because she says weird things like someone used the term menstruating person in government documents, and she said there used to be a word for this. This is what she tweeted. There used to be a word for this. What was it? And then she put like question marks after. And I thought that's brilliant trolling of them because
I give her full credit. Now, not to be too cynical, of course, when you have $100 billion or whatever she has, and all of her,
she has actually all the money.
She has.
They had to give her all the money for the Harry Potter books.
That's why I don't have any. J.K. Rowling.
That's why none of us have money because J.K. Rowling has all of it. Yeah.
But she deserves. So even all the money and all the fame in the world can be of little consolation when you're being savaged by the elite.
Yeah.
And so I give her credit.
Good for her. Yes.
For holding up to that. And it will be very interesting to see if her brand of sanity wins out, or if even she's forced to succumb to that kind of thing.
All right, I'm going to say something mean now because I agree with you. J.K. Rowling is one of my heroes now. I'm so proud of her for just saying normal things and not getting back down. But I have to say to the feminists who told us that a key component of feminism, and for 2 generations they did this, is abortion, and that abortion is not the taking of a human life. It's just a clump of cells, and women don't have any emotional attachment to it. There's not going to be any repercussions. It's just you making women feel bad, and there's no moral content to any of this. And now they're mad because the younger generation took it one step further and said, okay, well, if you're going to say a pregnant lady doesn't have, and I use the word lady advisedly. I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, it's 1943. A pregnant woman, if you're going to try to convince us and put all this media effort in that she does not have a baby inside of her, but she has some other condition, but it's not a baby. So this is not the killing of a baby. Then we're just going to say, well, that boy is not a boy. What's the difference? So I do have some sense of, well, if you destroyed language and made it no longer coordinate to reality, you removed that what used to be a fixation of language, was try to express reality. Why do you get to complain now that they say the girls, this is a girl who's beating you in sports?
Well, you see the slippery slope there, and if you don't mind this brief, it's not a digression, but this slight tangent. A decade or 2 ago, there was the J.K. Rowling of abortion.
Yeah.
And her name was, and I believe she's still alive, a woman named Naomi Wolf.
Remember Naomi Wolf, right? Yes.
And she was a political operative.
They did away with her,
She
didn't
was
they?
famous for inventing the so-called alpha male personality that Al Gore adopted in an attempt to win the 2000 presidential election, leading to a very awkward make-out session with Tipper there on the stage, if you remember.
And a new Al Gore for each. Remember, he was a new Al Gore for each debate. He was a new Al Gore.
You had to remind us.
But so poor Al. I didn't mean to bash him, but the point was Naomi Wolf had unassailable credentials on the left, and she wrote a piece. I forget where it was published. It may have been the Times, about abortion, where she said, look, my fellow feminists, we know we're killing a baby.
God bless her. Yeah, I know.
And I think we should have that right.
Yeah.
But rather than pretending it's a clump of cells or shouting our abortion, as they say now, which is further out there, let's create a mourning ceremony. let's find ways to atone. She used the word atone. She's Jewish.
Yeah.
She used the word atone because she sensed that it was an evil. She thought it was a necessary evil.
Right.
She put the woman's self-determination ahead of the baby's right to life.
But she admitted the truth.
But she did. And I don't think we ever heard from her again.
No.
I mean, she got stuffed into some hole, and maybe Gore losing has something to do with that too. But she had a chance there to change the conversation on the social and moral left to something saner and something realer.
Right.
And her line of thinking lost, and it got just more extreme as you've been outlining for us.
Yeah. So I mean, it's to me, and now I'm going to get into real hot water if I say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's the people who complain about the norms, the social norms of Donald Trump, who have been making the most grotesque comedy specials on HBO for, decades. They've destroyed every norm available, and now they're mad about it? Well, did you think that no one was going to take it one step further than you wanted to take it? And that's the way I feel about the lies about abortion, that, okay, you thought it wasn't going to go one more lie and get to you, but it does. It always goes one more lie, and it always gets to you. And now a woman is not a woman. And that's a dangerous place for women, because women... I mean, a society in which a woman is not recognized as a woman, it doesn't have a place where she can change her clothing, for example, without men being there, or go to prison if she has committed a crime without men being there. All you're doing is endangering the lives of women and creating injustice against them.
Well, we've seen this with feminism itself. When it was saying men and women have to be equal in all things, what it ended up practically doing is dragging women down, certainly on the sexual plane, dragging them down to the men's level,
right?
Which was just amorality and just scratching an itch. And women are better than men when it comes to that type of thing.
Well, right, and also the world never had to, because of abortion, the world never had to deal with pregnancy as an actual part of a normal woman's life, and so women were forced to destroy their own children, rather than the corporate world going, you know what, we need a cry room,
Right.
or we need to have days off that are appropriate to this awesome task that this woman is undertaking on behalf of all of us and on behalf of God, if we still believed in God. Instead of doing that, we said, well, no, she has a right to abortion. That's her right.
Sure.
And so we don't have to do all these things.
And now the next illogical step, which we are excerpting a New York Post article in the next magazine, is apparently a whole wave of young women who are having themselves sterilized at 19 years old, 25 years old.
God help us, that's awful.
And one of the quotes was, bringing a child into this world is immoral. Yeah. It's a moral evil to have children.
So that's a nexus of two kinds of lie, right? So it's the diminishment of authentic femininity, which includes, at the top of the list, the ability to conceive and bear and nurture a child. But that's coinciding with a kind of anti-humanist element in modern leftism that sees mankind as humankind, with a Y, as a scourge on the planet, a kind of plague of locusts.
Right.
And so you have kind of the traditional critique against feminism, which is that these modern radical feminists want to turn women into an imitation of men. So look at there's been a commercial that's been running a lot when you watch sports. I like to watch a lot of sports, and it's for MMA fighting, martial arts.
Yeah.
And there's a commercial where two MMA fighters promote a sports drink or something, and it's a man, and he's muscular, and he has a broad shoulders, and he's got a square jaw, and he's very tough looking. It's very masculine. And there's the woman, and she's got her hair cut short, and she has a square jaw, and she's got broad shoulders, and she's very muscular, just a little bit less so than the man. And the message there is that female empowerment
means
leads
becoming
you
a man.
To look like a man,
Yeah.
to be aggressive and violent, which is more in a man's nature, to be sterile like a man, to be, as Tim pointed out, sexually promiscuous, as often tends to be in man's nature more than a woman's, because women instinctively understand the connection between sex and marriage and procreation better than men do.
Right.
So holy cow, ladies, this is what we fought for?
Yeah.
To be turned into pale imitations of men?
And then be replaced by men who say that they're women.
Right.
So you cannot run track because you didn't make the track team. Because it's all men who say that they are women. It's a very, well, this is why I really did value that book that you published this year, Revolt Against Reality, because at some point you got to go, nah, you know what, here's where we made a terrible error. We said that a human being is not a human being. Let's go back and revisit that, and then maybe we'll get all the rest, we'll get that in order. Not that that's likely to happen on short order, but you both were attracted to one of the negative trends, which was a way of talking about exactly what we're talking about. And the person called it the pornification of pronouns or distortions of grammar for the sake of diversity. After the break, I want you to say why you both found that way of phrasing it interesting. Catholic Answers Live, more right after this.
Do you have a question but prefer to ask it privately? Catholic Questions can help. Go to CatholicQuestions.com to ask your question online, email us, drop us a letter, or give us a call. Longtime Catholic Answers Live apologist and author Jim Blackburn or another Catholic Questions apologist will be happy to assist you. Catholic Questions proudly supports Catholic Answers Live, so visit us at CatholicQuestions.com today. That's CatholicQuestions.com.
Stay with us for more Catholic Answers Live.
The Aquinas Writing Advantage program is part of Homeschool Connections' set of online courses for your Catholic homeschool. Homeschool Connections' website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Many people are confused as to what news program to listen to. One news station promotes one thing, while another says the opposite. That's where Catholic radio comes in. This is Donetta Robin of Divine Mercy Radio in Hayes, Kansas. Be assured that Catholic Radio will give you the news from a Catholic perspective and without bias. Be informed today. Tune in to Catholic Radio.
The world needs EWTN Catholic Radio, now more than ever.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'll write the email. You don't have to write it. All right, I'll write it right now. Dear Catholic Answers Live, how can you have three men talking about women's issues? Okay, I've got the email. It's in the file. Thank you for saying it.
I have news for you, boys.
What's that?
I'm declaring myself a woman.
Oh, all right. Just so that you can not get that email.
You are so brave.
No, I mean I have to say, like most of what I just said, for my part, I learned it from brilliant Catholic women. Yes. and I'll give Dr. Carrie Grass her due, and Gloria Purvis, who taught me that. She taught me the statement: they changed women's bodies because they didn't want to change the world. They didn't want to change the corporate world, so they changed women's bodies. Okay, so and I'm not saying all right. We should have more.
That's good. Here's some chemicals you could put in your body so you'll be as infertile as a man.
Yeah, right.
Now you're empowered.
So yeah. So that your sex is as meaningless as his. All right, but you two were attracted to this way of this person expressed it, and I don't have the name of who did it, and I probably wouldn't share it if I did. What's a negative trend? This was what we asked: pornification of pronouns or distortion of grammar for the sake of diversity. What does that mean to you, and why were you attracted to that as a negative trend? Is it all the way?
I'm not sure what his manner of expressing it means. I'm still thinking about it. Pornification. It's certainly an arresting noun. Is that a noun? Yeah, that's a noun. Arresting way of putting it. But to be sure, we've talked about racial relations. We've talked about politics. We've talked about male-female relations. The world of grammar is so instructive for us, and the norms that it expresses have ripple effects on the culture. And that's one reason why we're kind of retrograde in our style at Catholic Answers. We despise, Tim and I are both, in the publishing game. We despise the popular, which some of our own people here use, kind of reflexively, the younger ones, use of the plural pronoun as a...
as a way of threading the
avoiding,
needle.
Avoiding he or she.
Right.
So avoiding to say...
Because standard English, if it's unclear, always goes to the male pronoun. Each person is responsible for his pencil.
Yeah.
Even though
That's the traditional way of doing it.
Not each person is responsible for their pencil.
That's right.
It's each person is singular, so it's got to be a singular pronoun.
Ogden Nash put it beautifully. I believe it was Nash who said the male embraces the female is the rule of thumb for
mankind,
remembering the historic. Now look, MLA, the handbook, MLA handbook said we should use she now as the feminine as the universal pronoun. And if there's a kind of pronoun affirmative action at work, I mean, we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
But the motives underlying
that's the
murdering of language, fall fully in line with the other things we've been talking about. So and there were 2 or 3 in that survey that talked about pronouns as being the worst thing.
Yeah, it really bothers people. But I think there's a sense of policing of language that drives people crazy. Like, I have to say, there's this phrase that every elite media outlet uses, this little term. And the people that it refers to hate it. And it's called Latinx. And every Latina person that I know says, no, never call me that. Yeah. And yet NPR will not stop using it because to them, language is more important than people. And you control the language, then you control the people.
Well, how about this, Si, if you'll indulge me on this. So we talked about a male-dominated society imposing maleness on women and calling it feminism. The imposition of non-gendered language to cultures that have gendered language
is disrespectful of that culture.
It's utterly disrespectful.
Right.
It's a kind of cultural imperialism. Hey, in
That's
English,
exactly what it is.
we don't have inflections on our nouns in English, so you got to stop doing it too.
Right. Yeah.
But these languages, and of course,
it's what the Pope would call intellectual colonialization.
That's exactly what it is.
Right. Yeah. You're going to colonize all these ignorant Latino and Latina people because their language doesn't conform to your ideology. And you're not going to care that they tell you to stop.
And God bless 98% of them or whatever it is for telling them to
They're
stop.
like, no, we have a language. We have words for ourselves. So
our language is actually, 1,000 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. So let's just sum up the negative trend of the year because we've spent so much time on these that I need to. The number 1 has to do with COVID. The number 2 has to do whatever that other basket is that we just talked about. Wokeism, pronouns. I'm throwing it all in there together. And those are the negative trends of the year. Let's do positive trends of the year.
Yay.
All right. Some positive things. How about I throw it out to you? Which one stuck? If you each want to pick one, you'll go first, Todd, this time because I think Tim went first on the negative ones.
Oh, okay.
What's a positive trend of the year that stuck out to you from our survey?
Well, there were a few. 2 of them I thought were kind of funny and instructive. One was I can't think of anything. So God bless you, sir or madam, for your positivity.
For not being able to think of one positive thing.
That's someone who sees the glass half full, and I appreciate that.
Like not even like the moon is continuing to orbit the Earth. I appreciate that trend continuing.
Gravity continues to function.
Yeah, right. Nothing positive.
Ice continues to float, not sink, because we'd all be dead otherwise. Which is true, by the way. Another one that was instructive was my prayer life, and that's really kind of convicting there. Here we are talking about global politics and inter-church battles and all that sort of thing when again it's our daily conversion to Christ that ought to be our focus, right? But of the others, I liked those who mentioned that we're seeing in the church an increased focus put on Eucharistic coherence, as the phrase has been put, both in the church's efforts to roll back these horrible surveys we keep seeing about how weak Catholic faith in the real presence is and understanding thereof, and also to rightly and justly tie our reception of the Eucharist to the way that we live our faith and express it publicly, and certainly in the interior form as well. And there's still a long way to go on that, but there are bishops that you can see now who get it. There are battles to be fought, but there are some good champions on the side of right in this, so that's encouraging.
And and it's nice to see that some people actually are encouraged by it. They're willing to say that's a positive trend. Yeah. Tim, what do you got? What struck you?
Well, just on that topic, what struck me has struck me for several years when we see these surveys and these depressing surveys about people's lack of belief in the real presence. Every parish priest I've ever heard mention it or preach on it, even priests that I know maybe aren't the most orthodox priests that you'd want to meet, perhaps, no one has not preached the real presence. None of these priests have not preached the real presence.
Right.
So if there's widespread disbelief, as we're led to believe by surveys, it's an interesting disconnect to me. I don't know that it's coming from the priests. I think huge majority of priests preach the true presence of Christ.
Yeah.
So is it a cultural thing? Is it people not believing in the miraculous? Maybe I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I think there's actually an institution that gets some blame: Catholic universities. I think Catholic university theology departments have been disabusing, I suppose is what they think they're doing, Catholic young people of their Catholic faith. They go to Catholic universities and they're told that the Bible has been debunked and any number of things. And they, well, okay. And they're also told there's a perfectly good option. Just continue to be Catholic, but don't believe. You know, like that. I think I'm not saying that's the main thing.
And then they go on to be CCD teachers and
right, exactly. But
DREs.
Here's an area where bishops will be the last people to wake up, as they seem to be on so many things nowadays.
Right.
And confront Catholic universities and say, stop it. Teach the Catholic faith.
Well, and our bishop, to his credit, had homilies read at every Mass over the summer.
He did a beautiful
focusing on the real presence.
Yeah, I was very grateful to, and they were good homilies too. Very good things. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back with more positive trends and other things from our year-end survey on Catholic Answers Live.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
Here's a question. Is it really possible to be friends with someone who died 2,000 years ago? Maybe the problem is that we've grown way too comfortable with the story of Jesus. Nice man, right? Taught us to love one another, said not to judge people. We celebrate his birthday every year. It's time to put away this small, safe version of Jesus, says Cy Kellett. Nobody that bland could have transformed the world. In A Teacher of Strange Things, Cy presents Jesus Christ undiluted by sentiment, with all his radical words and deeds uncensored. Do you know someone, your son or daughter perhaps, or maybe your mom or dad, who needs the friendship of Jesus Christ? Do you? Order your copy of A Teacher of Strange Things by visiting shop.catholic.com today or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you. Have you enrolled in the Catholic Answers School of Apologetics? Let me ask you a more important question. Do you believe as a Catholic that you have an obligation to share the Catholic faith? In fact, the Church has answered this question, and the answer is that all confirmed Catholics are obliged to share the faith. It's actually in canon law. Catholic Answers is here to help you fulfill that obligation. Our School of Apologetics courses will equip you to help all the people you come in contact with understand what the Church teaches and why. A great place to start is with all the Catholics in your life. Learn the art of apologetics from the best of the best and start sharing the gospel today. Visit schoolofapologetics.com. That's schoolofapologetics.com.
This is Debbie Georgiani.
And I'm Jerry Usher.
Join us for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie tomorrow at noon Eastern.
Now back to Catholic Answers Live.
Merry Christmas. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We're spend the last couple of days of the year on Catholic Answers Live. We've been doing this for years now, talking with some of our colleagues here at Catholic Answers about how the year went, what's up with the year. We include in those conversations our survey of our listeners. People are generous enough to answer our 11 questions each year. And tomorrow we'll reveal more of the winners, so to speak, our I guess winner. I don't know if you won something by being the trend of the year, but so the trend that you picked, I just want to review real quick where you said the one that stuck out for you was
that a number of people noted an increased attention to Eucharistic faith and Eucharistic coherence in Catholic life. And
your positive trend was, Tim?
My positive trend, the one that jumped out at me, was the whole issue of parents awakening, to what's had been going on in public schools for decades, because of COVID and because of the homes, having to watch their children and what they do in a Zoom classroom. They started seeing how their children are being indoctrinated, and they're starting to stand up against it. And I think it makes those people who were concerned for maybe religious reasons, homeschoolers, et cetera, look a little less crazy. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just what they saw in the Zoom classes and what they learned about what was being taught. It was the attitude they got back.
Absolutely. Yeah, the school board.
And the unions.
Why are you bothering us?
Don't you realize,
lowly parent?
So who was it that said it was in the Virginia race? Was it
Youngkin, I think was
who?
No, it was McCall. Terry McCall.
The negative thing.
Who said you don't have a right to decide.
Parents do not.
We don't want parents in here deciding.
Said it in so many words. That's why he's not governor of Virginia right now.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's a positive trend.
Right. A very positive trend. Do you include it, or it's because some people word these in their own wording. We don't tell them how to word it. Do you include it with there seemed to be a general trend to me of people are waking up, or people are realizing, or one person put it this way. Now let me just find it in my list here of be hot or cold, for the lukewarm will be spit out of his mouth. This is how this person expressed it. It appears the youth are more hot than my generation was, meaning Catholic youth, I think. Like people are more on to the fact that they need to speak up, they need to challenge, they need to make other arrangements for their children, that kind of thing. Would you say that fits in what you're saying about parents, or parents fit into that, or you think they're two different things?
I don't see the congruent.
It doesn't all come together.
It doesn't all come together for me, but it's certainly related. There's no doubt that it's related. But there's always a dark side, right? So parents are waking up and they're speaking their minds, and then what happens? Well, the judicial or the DOJ gets weaponized against them.
Yeah, right.
Which is just I mean, you sometimes don't. I don't know what country I'm living in anymore, but.
And this is a Catholic issue. This isn't just political talk.
No, the education of children.
Because we are the primary educators of our children.
Yeah. That's right.
And it's a natural right, and it's a religious responsibility for those in a sacramental marriage.
One that I noted was several people mentioned the either pro-life movement making progress or Roe versus Wade. Looks like it. People are feeling positive on that front. I don't think we're Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned, and then a culture of love will and responsibility will be breaking out everywhere.
Right.
But it certainly is.
But it can
step
be
in the right
away.
Yeah.
Well, the law as a teacher side. This is such an important principle. Will the culture of love immediately follow? No. In fact, I think it's going to be like, as I think one of my colleagues put it, if and when, God willing, Roe v. Wade is overturned in July, it's going to be like the end of Ghostbusters when the trap is opened and all the
demons
come out.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a dangerous time. But that it has been the law of the land, this codified language, depersonalizing the unborn as a principle, and codifying this idea that human life is a great mystery that we can't ever solve. And it's just you roll your bones, or you look at your mouse entrails or whatever. It's like some kind of voodoo magic to figure out what life is. As long as that's codified, it's instructive in ways explicit and subliminal. When you take that away, I think you'll be surprised the ramifications that will have, the positive ones that will have.
Yeah, but there's a crucible to go through to get to that side still.
And yes.
Fair enough. I actually don't know. Looking at it, I couldn't find a way to say this is the clear winner of the positive trend of the year. It would depend on which things you put. So you guys pick which is what do you declare a winner. Positive trend of the year, according to Catholic Answers listeners, is
the success of Cy's book.
That's excellent choice. I mean, I suppose one way you could, because several people said, Catholic catechesis is getting more serious. People are taking their faith more seriously. This jibes with your Eucharistic coherence point, maybe let's put them all together and say there seems to be some level of awakening.
Catholics are becoming woke in the right way.
Woke Catholicism.
And you know, this gets back to what you were saying a moment ago, Cy. Why are the youth hotter? Why are parents waking up? If we're going to try to have a unified field theory on this, and it may be a stretch, but and lukewarmness fits into this too. When things are lukewarm, you're kind of in a lukewarm bath. You just kind of float, and you don't feel a lot. The hotter or colder things get, you start to take notice. And it was easier to float along in the culture when it was just a little bad.
Yeah.
When there was lip service paid
right.
to your religious belief or your sincerity of this or whatever, and there was a kind of mutual non-aggression that was sustainable. The farther and farther that the secular world gets aggressive and hostile toward people of faith and people of traditional morality, the harder and harder it is to maintain that détente.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where the awokeness comes. Awokeness? Did I just invent a word there?
Awakened.
Awakenedness.
Awakened.
So I think that's a good summation of the trend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. That will be our winner.
We have a winner.
What he said.
Do I get the cash prize?
We're going to put it on the
or?
website as what Todd said. All right, I know. Here's one you all don't want to talk about, but let me just explain to people how this is supposed to work. All right, we ask the listeners to give us their response to these various categories. One of the categories is Catholic Media Apostolate of the Year, or Catholic Media Outlet of the Year, I guess is how or Organization of the Year. That's it. Catholic Media Organization of the Year. When a group that is itself a Catholic media organization of the, asks you, what's the Catholic media organization of the year?
There's only one right answer.
Then you say to that group, them. Like, you don't say EWTN. No, we don't want to hear EWTN. Right. They're wonderful.
Right.
Catholic Media Organization of the Year is Catholic Answers. On the Catholic Answers poll, that's the only answer we're going to look at.
Next question.
The winner is Catholic Answers.
We didn't even come in first, I don't think.
No, we did on our own poll. We didn't come in first. Come on, people. You're just mean.
We have the best social media page, though, of any of these other competing organizations, if you ask me.
EWTN always does very, very well. They did very, very well. I think, myself, looking at it, I didn't go back to check earlier years. I think Ascension Press had their best year ever on our poll. And I think I know why.
Well, there's a congruence between that category.
Careful what you say here. Careful what you say, because
Ascension Press got a lot of love in the survey.
Yeah, and I appreciate you were careful after I said it, but they got a lot of love because of the Bible in a Year, don't you think? I mean,
that seems to be the case.
So they hit media gold with that lovable priest from Minnesota. I think that's where he's from.
Handsome, lovable priest.
That handsome, lovable, articulate priest.
Handsome, lovable, articulate.
Charming.
I got nothing else. I'm sorry. I was trying to tack on to that. I thought you were going to razz Matt Pinto. You know, the founder of Ascension Press is an old former Catholic Answers colleague of ours, Matt Pinto, and a good friend. I thought you were going to razz him because I think he's recently kind of divested himself of the company.
He's moved on.
I thought you were going to say it got good because...
Oh, it got good because Matt left.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh, I thought it was like selling Microsoft stock before it splits or something.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
He gets out a little too early.
Sounds like it.
I think Ascension Press does a lot of good work, actually. And I like the Jeff Cavins, all the Jeff Cavins stuff that they do. But Father Mike Schmitz is a superstar. He just is. He's a superstar. And I pray for him because... the devil is going to hate him and attack him and try to bring him down and create some scandal around him or something. And please pray for Father Mike Schmitz. But he had the #1, what do they call those things? Podcast.
Podcast, right.
I have one of those, and I can't ever remember the name of them, so that's probably why mine's not that good. But sorry.
Oh, don't say that. It's the best.
Not that popular. But I mean, he had the #1 podcast for a while on Apple, and Apple's
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's big deal. So he's a superstar.
Well, I have friends who teach RCIA, and they certainly say that he appeals. That young people really relate to him.
I think we may take it justly too as an encouraging sign of people's interest in Scripture, because it's a Bible podcast, and maybe that's positive news that belongs on the ledger as well.
Oh yeah, I don't think it would have been like 5 minutes a day with Father Mike would have done it. I think it's because it's Father Mike, because it's the Bible. It's just they caught lightning in a bottle, and praise God for it. I'm glad. I'm super jealous. No, that's not the word I was looking for. Some other folks that got on there are some of our radio networks, like the Guadalupe Radio Network, which we're always proud of them. There were some others on there, and now I'm not seeing them as I'm scrolling through.
And
I
Word on
apologize
Fire
for
was
that.
on there.
Word on Fire, Living Bread Radio, and others. So people love their local Catholic radio network, and some of these are regional. I shouldn't say local, regional Catholic radio networks, and they should because they're great.
So didn't you pop up a few times in this category?
Catholic Answers Live, maybe, or Catholic Answers did.
That's right.
Yeah. But not me personally, no.
No, but I noticed some people said Catholic Answers and one person said Catholic Answers Live, so they were making a distinction.
Which, by the way, that person got it right. I'm going to find out who that person was, and they're getting a fabulous room full of gifts and prizes. Another one on here I do want to talk about, we'll do it after the break, a brand new entry. And we can talk about them a little or a lot, but a brand new entry into the Catholic media world this year. And they got a lot of votes. Find out who that is right after this. Catholic Answers Live.
You're listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
I'm Jeanette DeMello, Editor-in-Chief of the National Catholic Register and co-host of Register Radio with Matthew Bunson. Join us every week as we talk with the Register's expert writers and editors about the news you need to know and offer authentic Catholic insights on the important stories that impact your life. Register Radio, every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, here on EWTN Global Catholic Radio.
A lot of people think that street evangelization involves yelling out of a bullhorn telling people that they're going to hell. Not so with St. Paul's Street Evangelization. Our methods are non-confrontational and effective. We simply offer information on the Catholic faith along with rosaries, miraculous medals, and prayer. Pope Francis wrote about how beautiful it is to see street preachers joyfully bringing Jesus to every corner of the earth. Street evangelization is fun and fruitful. Join us today at streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back, Catholic Answers Live. All right, we've talked about a lot of the winners. The Catholic Answers is the winner. I mean, I'm just going to declare us the winner. But let's see, who else? Catholic News Agency got some.
You teased a new entry for the break.
I did. I'm going to get there. I just want to give credit because people put these down there, and I think some of them are a little bit of a stab at us, and then they'll be like, oh, they didn't even mention mine. So I got to mention Church Militant got on there. The Remnant Newspaper got on there. Hallow.
Oh, the Hallow app.
The Hallow app. We love the Hallow app.
We're doing something with
good.
them. I forget what
but
it was.
a new player on the field got a lot of votes. Not enough to win. Not enough to defeat Catholic Answers in our own poll. But the Pilar. What is that? The Pilar. What is that?
It's a rice
kind of rice. Yeah, it's
a rice. The Pilar. The Pillar. New Catholic reporting, doing a lot of
pillar of salt. What kind of pillar is it exactly?
A pillar of
fire,
pillar of truth. I think is what they're.
Okay.
And they have done some very fine reporting, and we've had them on our programs. JD and help me, please. JD and Ed. Yeah, sorry, Ed. that happens to me sometimes. Also some controversial reporting this year, however, and they definitely got attention when they, and you guys don't have to comment on this because you live in that media world, and so if you just want to remain, but I wasn't sure about it when it first happened, and I'm still not sure about it. The outing of clerics who used
gay
dating apps, yeah. When dating, what do you
quote
put that in quotes?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't even the outing of clerics. It was a supposition based on
indications that this person was
on devices,
Wi-Fi surveillance or something like that. Yeah.
So, but I have to say, no one on earth, as far as I know, is doing the kind of financial reporting on the church that they are. And so I just wanted to, without resolving, I don't want to resolve that issue. I can't resolve it myself. They made an editorial choice of what to do. Many people really appreciated it. Others thought it was unchristian. And maybe even unjust, not just unchristian. Which, by the way, in case you don't know this, Christianity, higher standard than just justice. But I have to say, when I read their financial reporting on dioceses, on institutions, and particularly in the Vatican, I think these guys break their backs to do good, strong reporting on that, and I'm very grateful for it. So they're getting their props for it, or they're getting their attention for it. But they didn't beat us in our own survey. If they're going to have to work to beat us. But did we not win our own survey? I think we did actually win our own survey. Yeah, there's more of us than others.
You mean for real?
It was close.
For real.
Thumb on the scale.
Yeah, we didn't run away with it in our own survey. As a matter of fact, I need to get the staff. I'm like, please go take our survey and vote for Catholic Answers. Right. There's a lot of pride on the line. We can't have EWTN beating us in our own survey. All right, Person of the Year. We're not gonna actually reveal Person of the Year today. That waits till tomorrow. That's the big reveal at the end, the Catholic Person of the Year. But I thought I would just ask you guys, did anybody stand out to you as Catholic Person of the Year? I'm going to tell you a little story about Catholic Person of the Year. And I think I can do that now because voting has closed.
Okay.
In the year 2019, Catholic Person of the Year was, and I believe that the person was at that point unnamed, guy who threw Pachamama into the river.
That's right. I recall that.
He won Catholic Person of the Year. I mean, there are living saints among us, and that guy. But I wasn't terribly opposed to it. I thought, yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, that's what. But this man did not throw Pachamama into the river a second time, but won a second time in the year 2020. Catholic Person of the Year, guy who threw Pachamama into the river. That's how excited people were about that. So I was on pins and needles this year. We can't have guy who threw Pachamama into the river be man of the year or person of the year again, and he wasn't. So he wasn't. But what happened though, because we didn't have a crystallizing event like that, I thought it was quite a bit more diffuse. So I want to ask you: is there anybody that stands out to you? Did you have a Pachamama thrower in mind that you wanted to celebrate?
Well, I did notice that, excuse me, our good friend Rose Sweet got a vote.
Yes.
And so I texted her and said, hey,
yeah,
you got to vote for Catholic Person of the Year.
Yeah.
And she said to me, that means I'm at the bottom of the barrel. Oh, and I told her, and I didn't get a vote, by the way. And she said, and you're under the barrel. So that's how things ended up with the two of us.
I personally think that part of the reason that Rose would get a vote and you did not is Rose has a kind of worldly wisdom that you lack, and she voted for herself. So she went online, she voted for herself, and she got a vote. You didn't vote for yourself, Tim.
That may be it.
That's not true, Rose.
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
That's true at all.
I'm sorry I said that. Rose Sweet deserved that vote.
Absolutely.
And several more. All right. Well, I'm glad you gave a shout out to our good friend Rose Sweet. Anybody else stick out for you, or anybody that you want to talk about? I mean, and if not, I'll just go to Cardinal Pell.
Wow, he was my backup. You know, there's a little bit of a middle-aged moment for me here because the years start to flow into each other.
Right. So you voted for the Pachamama guy again, huh?
Because that was like 3 weeks ago that happened, right?
Right. Yeah.
I especially with COVID, really has thrown off my perception of the last few years of my life.
Isn't it weird how it's done that? Yeah. Yeah.
But Cardinal Pell and Archbishop Cordileone, when we're talking about Eucharistic coherence, he's been a leader on the subject, so I'd put him on the short list.
Several people chose Archbishop Gomez in Los Angeles, and I think it has entirely to do with one speech that he made. He got a great deal of attention for that speech he made in España. Was that where he was? He was in Spain when he made the speech about wokeism and atheism and the injustices of it. And I just want to say, when a bishop speaks up, people really are grateful. Like, they really want to hear them speak up. A little fella named Pope Francis got a few votes. That's always good when the Pope gets at least some attention.
Is he going through the Bible in a year?
No, yeah, right. Okay, so you're pointing out that Mike Schmidt's got a lot of votes. And another guy got a lot of votes this year. And I'm glad he got a lot of votes because I think we shortchanged him. I think as an institution, we at Catholic Answers shortchanged him, and I think the entire planet shortchanged this person this year. And several people voted for him. The mother of, I mean, not the mother of our Lord, the Father of our Lord.
The Father of our Lord.
Joseph.
Oh, gosh.
Of course.
That's the right answer.
Look at how you people are. You're like, who could it be? This is what one guy wrote. St.
yeah.
Joseph. It was literally his year.
Right?
Like, he has to be the person of the year.
That's hard to argue with.
I just think it's one of the best things that Pope Francis has done. I'm so glad he gave us the year of St. Joseph, and I really do feel like we all kind of let him down in a certain way. I mean, he got a year, and how much did we really celebrate him?
Well, we published a book.
We did. We published
that's
a book
true.
to know St. Joseph. You know, I learned a really cool factoid in that book, Si. Can I tell you what that is
Please.
about St. Joseph?
Yeah.
Apparently, in a church in France is a jar containing what in the original French of this book, as we translated, it's called a han. And evidently...
That was a band, wasn't it?
Like Han Solo.
Oh, han. Han. Oh, a han.
And
okay.
this is not a joke. It's in Blois, I think. And the thing that's allegedly in this vial is a han, which is the sound that comes out of a man's chest when he chops wood.
Oh.
So this pious tradition that they captured the sound of St. Joseph in a manly way chopping wood and preserved this
That's awesome.
airy relic. Isn't that
so Catholic,
old
first of
school
all.
Catholic
That
right
is
there?
real Catholic. Yes, like I imagine that there are people who hear that and go, that's why I don't like you Catholics. But for us Catholics, we love this about ourselves, that people have a captured somewhere.
That's why.
And it's St. Joseph's
Father Hugh's perspective on that is the best, because he says, let's just believe it all. Why not? It's all part of our family tradition.
Right. I think that's why Catholics have affection for those kind of things, because it is part of our family tradition. It's like, like I have stories in my family that are rooted in truth, but they get told every Christmas, and now they've got they're more interesting now than they were when they happened.
Right.
And but I'm not doubting the like maybe someone. I'm sorry.
Come on,
someone caught it. But
get your inner Frenchman going there.
Yeah, but Saint Joseph doesn't say a word in the scriptures, not a single word, and all the Catholics who are out there thinking that they're saving the faith by their Twitter comments, their Twitter takedowns of other Catholics or of secular people. Joseph is a really good example on this one.
Good point.
That his trust was in the Lord, and his mission was to make, to first of all to care for the Lord, and then make it possible for the Lord to be heard. Not for Joseph to be heard, but for the Lord to be heard. And I wonder how much we, in our media, social media, all that, we think, what my job as a Christian is to make the Lord heard, like Joseph did. Not to have my opinion, not my take. I love those videos where it says like, so and so demolishes, Trent Horn or something. You're like, well, first of all, I gotta watch that video. If there's any chance of Trent Horn getting demolished, I gotta see that. But what kind of spirit is that?
Yeah.
Well, our side is guilty of that too sometimes. And
yeah.
So and that's not, I'm sure, Si, it wasn't your intention to downplay the usefulness of a media apostolate, for example.
Right. Yeah. No.
It's good to open your mouth, and it's good to get your fingers working on the keyboard sometimes.
Right.
But there's a larger purpose in that, and Joseph models that for us. Yeah.
Also on there, in addition to St. Joseph, an even higher ranking Catholic, Bishop Robert Barron, got a few votes. He's now the highest ranking Catholic, isn't he? I
believe so.
Is he? Because he's on PBS.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you if you could get your show on PBS.
Or Joe Rogan.
Wait, has he been on Joe Rogan?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I've never seen Joe Rogan, and everyone tells me I should listen to him. But he didn't make Catholic Person of the Year.
Darn it.
Tim Staples got some votes. Jimmy Akin got some votes. Dr. Timothy Gray, I like him. He got some votes. Joe Hashmeyer got some votes. The three of us, no votes. Wait, did I get any votes? Well, yeah, of course I got a vote. I forgot I voted for myself. Yeah, I got a vote there. And Bishop Strickland got some votes. Tomorrow we'll reveal the winner, however.
How do I get this survey next year so I can make sure to get my own ballot stuffer Legion going?
You have to be a member of Society 315 or a member of the Catholic Answers Radio Club.
Okay.
And then we'll send it to you. But I really should include the staff because Catholic Answers will do much better if we can get 40 staff people to vote for Catholic Answers.
But that's a great incentive.
I
to
think
join
next
the
year we could
society.
beat the pillar.
Yeah, make sure you join Society
That's right.
315 so you can vote and get your thoughts in on
That's right.
on next year's
Hear them on the air.
categories.
Yeah.
Out of size mouth.
Right. I'll read your. It's literally St. Joseph's year. He has to be person of the year.
And then we'll sell it to you as an NFT.
Yeah, that's right. Then you'll have that. Amy Comey Barrett got a vote. Cardinal Burke, Bishop Strickland. Tim Ryland is the editor of Catholic Answers Magazine. You can go to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com and find out how you can access his work, CatholicAnswersMagazine.com. And it's a new magazine for a new year. Find out all about it. Thanks for coming in, Tim.
Of course, love it.
And the director of publishing here at Catholic Answers, a triumphant year for him, particularly in March, where he reached his peak. Continued great work. Todd Aguilar, thanks for coming in.
It's like trimming a bonsai tree, Si. The beauty was already there.
Yeah, you just brought it out. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, I think we got Chris Check and Joe Heschmeyer. And we'll continue with our review of the end of the year with those gentlemen. And we'll find out which handsome Catholic priest is... no, I can't say that. We'll find out who's the Catholic person of the year tomorrow. Catholic Answers Live.